Dune 2 is definitely locked and rated PG-13 for sequences of strong violence, some suggestive material, and brief, strong language. In theaters, March 15th. There was some suggestive material that was in Dune Part 1 as well. So I did a video on this, the spice orgy controversy. So if you're curious about, I do a deep dive into that as well. So they can do it. I think they could do it tastefully. But also I think about just how much is left in the story. I just hope it's not streamlined too much. I think probably the biggest part of that event is, of course, Jessica changing the waters of life. So the water of life ceremony. So I think that was the biggest part of that scene. And I think that will probably take up the most time. And they'll probably briefly, I'm just guessing, obviously, but briefly show them celebrating and sharing the water amongst them. But I don't think they want to spend too much time on it. Obviously, there's just so much that they need to cover in the story. So we'll see how that plays out. I think there's a leak. I don't think it's official yet, but it's about the runtime. And I think I've seen it a couple times that it's speculated that the runtime is at 3 hours and 15 minutes, which I'm all for. I just wish we had intermissions. Actually, I think Killers of the Flower Moon, isn't that 3 hours and 3.5 hours? And that's coming out on the 20th, I believe. Well, and I think with intermissions, like going to the movies kind of was more of like a special event, like going to the opera or something. Yeah, just like 10 minutes. 10 minutes to use the facilities, refill your popcorn and soda, and back in your seat, and there we go. Because I'm all for it. I'm all for the long movies. Mr. Angel. Movie will be 3 hours, 40 minutes, Dune fans. Only 3 hours and 40 minutes. And honestly, I think with Dune Part 1, it was almost 3 hours. It was just under that, right? 2 hours and 40 minutes or something. And honestly, that went by maybe towards the very end. I was starting to feel a little bit of a drag, I guess. Just that's how the story just flowed, though. But I think it went by very smoothly for me in general. Also, surprisingly, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, that was, I think, the same runtime, and that flew by for me, too. Yeah, so this is what's been going around. So now I know where it's from. So World of Real reported this, that it's a whopping 3 hours and 15 minutes long. The Dune miniseries, John Harrison's Sci-Fi Channel miniseries in 2000, is probably a lot of people's favorites because it's a miniseries. It had like 6 hours, and I think generally it is, and obviously we have yet to see Dune Part 2 yet, so can't compare really, but it is a very faithful rendering or interpretation. It has a charm to it, and I think similar to David Lynch's Dune that people have a certain, nostalgia for. I would say when it comes to the story, yes, I think it does a good job, but also there's some performances that were lacking, but also the hats, the costumes. It looks very much like a staged performance, like literally on a theater stage, which is not necessarily a bad thing. They were working with the budget they had. Definitely Children of Dune looked better. I think they had a bigger budget because the first series did well, so they, I guess, afforded them a bigger budget for that, and there were some improvements there. Villeneuve's Dune seems to be the best of both worlds. They have someone who's dedicated, for the most part, to maintaining faithfulness to the source material and has the budget and film savvy to use his resources wisely and bring about this big spectacle. So it's definitely going to be a sight to behold. That trailer, was it the second trailer? Man, it just gets you hyped. The hats. Everyone had to have a hat. Oh man, what are these called? What does someone call them? Chef Boy Artica or something like that? This might be my favorite hat. Oh, it's too good. It's funny. I think the hats did improve, like at the very end. I think Chani's hat. I think Chani had a hat, and it was or like a crown mostly, but I think that looked okay. Oh, the butterfly display hat. That's probably my favorite. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I have so many favorites. Why do they need a hat? Why does everyone need a hat? That was like all the costume department did mostly, was half of it was hats. It's a choice. It's a statement. Please, Irulan's doily. She's in her nightie. They even said in the thing, the first look, and she's in her loungewear or something, how they described it. But like, why would you make that your first photo to release? I don't know. It's fine. I just wouldn't, that wouldn't have been my first choice. It's a fancy doily. And they put this one, I don't know if y'all have seen this, but the Empire magazine, they did these big spreads, you know, exclusive interviews and stuff. And they have these cover issues. And one is of the fighters, and it shows Paul, Chani, Stilgar, and Jessica, and I think Gurney. And then there's the Oppressors edition, which is all the bad guys. And they have the Baron, the Beast, and Fade. This just stood out to me as like, okay, everyone else looks okay except Irulan. She sticks out like a sore thumb. And it's also called the Oppressors. Why isn't the Emperor in this magazine? He was the one that orchestrated this scheme with the Baron. And the Baron's here. And you have her in her nightie, no less. Why didn't you have her in her like chainmail outfit? Because we've already seen the footage of that. It's not like it's a secret. She just sticks out like a sore thumb. It looks so weird. And such a weird choice not to have the Emperor in this cover. It's Christopher Walken. Yeah, just a very odd choice to me. Even to have Lady Fenring on there. And Princess Irulan too, as the Oppressors, on the Oppressors edition. I mean, if anyone's the Oppressor, it's the Emperor in this regard. And so why didn't they use this one? If you're going to use, you know, the image of her, can you not pick the one where she looks cool? You know, I mean, you don't look like very intimidating in your nightgown. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, there's another one where she's in like a spangly ski mask looking thing. I don't know what you would call it, but it's like a very form-fitting headdress and it's bedazzled. That would have been better. And she even has the same nightgown dress on. I think that's the same thing, but with the headdress on there, would have made it look better. That's all I'm saying. Uncomfortable is what I call that. So the other magazine was just way cooler looking. I don't know. So I think they kind of messed up the villain magazine with that. Yeah, so this was the other one. This one looks cool. I have no problems with this. I would get this one, but if you're a fan and you're a collector, I just wish they would have, you know, made the antagonist edition more cool looking. It kind of does look copy pasted. They definitely copy pasted Irulan into that image. Some official stuff has kind of been underwhelming in that regard. Also, posters in general, like movie posters, I feel like that's becoming a lost art. Now it's just pictures of the cast, basically. And if it's done well, that's fine. But sometimes they're just posters that just have a really striking image on it, and it does not necessarily have the full ensemble cast, but it's more artistic and more striking. Like, I think one of the Dune posters, which I did like, was just a simple sand dune and the tiny little figure of Paul, I guess, in it. And I like that better. Simple, but I think it's the most artistic and speaks a lot to what the scale of the film, and it's mysterious. Paste everyone in a picture in a almost haphazard way. It's okay. That it just says that that's who's in it. That's who's in the movie is what that says to me, rather than what is this movie trying to convey in an artistic manner, what you're going to see. So I much prefer a more artistic approach. And it's simple. Sometimes less is more.